response. Sometimes that alone is enough to win a game.
Absolutely. And I do want to get into Christian's deck as the game progresses. There are different ways to build the Ends Zoroark EX deck. One that seems to go in and out of favor is the usage of the Ends Darmanitan. Some builds just don't use it at all. Christian has written on his deck list, Turbo Darmanitan, the sequel. So you can get a sense of what his strategy is going to be. Perhaps rather than that kind of slow, controlled pace we see from a lot of these Ends Zoroark decks, we'll see a more aggressive approach with the Ends Darmanitan.
Well, speaking of deck's strategies, this is about as good as it gets for the opening turn on Luke Gantner's side. The starter of Fan Rotom, immediately using that Fan Call ability to search the deck for 3 Pokemon with 100 HP or less. There was a Pidgey in the prize cards, but Luke, of course, playing 2 copies of Pidgey here in the list, will be able to still get one, and perhaps more importantly, the 2 Hoot will hit the field. Now, in order, of course, to use the Jewel Seeker ability of Noctowl, Luke also does need to find a Terra Pokemon, be it a basic or be it a rare candy, into a Charizard, but that won't be an option as he's unable to get a Charmander down on his first turn. Christian immediately, with the start of Inzarua, happy to find Buddy Poffin, and I'm assuming this Zorua is going to find a few friends.
Yeah, absolutely. Always love to see that. Buddy Poffin, one of the most powerful item cards for these decks that are trying to get small basic Pokemon into play and then evolve into much larger Pokemon on following turns. I did mention Christian is 4-0 against Charizard in this tournament, but his opponent, Luke, is actually 1-0 against Zoroark, so something's got to give here.
No one is going to be undefeated against this archetype after this match.
Unless they tie.
Well, is that really undefeated, though? I mean, come on. Christian's actually going to grab out Badoo and put that down into play. What do you make of the Badoo in his deck this weekend?
I mean, that's incredible, and it's really not something you would see coming from an Zoroark deck a lot of the time. You would expect that, of course, from like a Dragapult deck. Some other decks use Badoo. It's not something that comes to top of mind, and this is really devastating for Charizard. It hates item lock. You rely so much on rare candy to evolve into your Pidgeot EX, your Charizard EX. So this is actually going to be somewhat devastating in the early game, and it works perfectly. It's a great strategy with the Ends Darmanitan because it stops the rare candy. It keeps those Pokemon at lower HP stage 1s, so then you can knock them out with the Ends Darmanitan. But you do need a Darumaka to make it work.
Yeah, and Christian does have Artisan in his hand, so he could go get Darumaka, but I actually wonder if he'll hold off on that because Rotom needs a stadium in play to use its assault landing attack. So I think wisely here, Christian will pump the brakes, not worry too much about the aggression, force Luke to find a stadium card. And usually these Terra Zard decks, these Noctowl engine builds, play 2 or 3 Area 0 underdepths. It feels like most often it is 2 Area 0 underdepths. So if Luke wants to get a KO here, he's going to have to put one into play. And if he puts one into play, that's one less for him to have access to once that Team Rocket's Watchtower comes down.
Yeah, also currently does not have a Terra Pokemon in play, so cannot use Noctowl's Jewel Seeker. So this Itchy Pollen could be extremely disruptive. You could see a situation where if you don't have the Terapagos EX in hand already, you can get it off of the Dawn. It looks like just going to be a slow and steady one here. Grab a Charmander and a Pidgeotto and a Pidgeot EX.
Yeah, looking like Luke is going to choose to take it slow here. Dawn could have found Terapagos and gotten the Jewel Seeker right off the Noctowl and gone from there, but looking to just be okay with the slower pace here. He does bench down that Charmander. Now, Charmander, I guess, actually could KO the Badoo here if he wanted it to, should he have another Fire Energy available. Does deal 20 damage, and 1 energy will be enough to deal with Badoo, but just a pass. No energy, no aggression here. Live coal not on the table, and Christian Labella, I think, is going to be content that his Badoo made it through a turn. Ends PP up, accelerating an energy back into play from the discard pile, effectively, erasing the retreat from the last turn, and Christian will spread his energy out, not looking to attack this turn, looking to prepare his board as much as possible, and immediately going with Iono. I think he saw Luke put that Pidgeot EX into his hand, and doesn't really care to give Luke a free Pidgeot next turn.
Yeah, I think that's pretty smart. Don't give your opponent access to Quick Search if you can help it. Yeah, I think very smart, subtle plays from Christian so far that has been very disruptive for Luke's strategy. Yeah, these are the little things that can make your opponent slow down a little bit and give yourself time to set up bigger things. And there we do see at the ends, Darumaka does need to be in play for a turn before you can evolve into that Ends Darmanitan, but we'll be trying to set up for that Flame Body Cannon attack. 90 damage to the active Pokemon and 90 damage to one of your opponent's benched Pokemon. So if you can slow your opponent down with Itchy Pollen, you can then come in and perhaps do something devastating like a Boss's Orders, knock out both Pidgeotto and Charmander, but finds the other Pidgeot EX off of the Iono.
Well, must be nice here. Luke Gantner, Quick Search online will yield him whatever card he wants turn after turn after turn through the duration of this game. And once Pidgeot EX comes into play, there's not a great way for this Zoroark deck to deal with it. You can I don't think ever one-hit KO it, not a way I see. So he'd have to
Not
two-hit
totally.
KO, yeah, maybe Petrunt or something at the end of the game, but
Yeah, Blood Moon or Sluna plus a Black Belt training can do it. But yeah, it's a very awkward Pokemon to deal with early on.
so I think, I mean, most often I feel like Christian wants to just be dealing with the Pidgeys and Pidgeotos before Pidgeot EX is even able to be established, but now Quick Search is online. What is Luke going to want to chain together here?
Well, another interesting thing to note here is that there are no Terra Pokemon in play.
Right.
So even if you have Area 0 Underdepths, you can't expand your bench to more Pokemon. Those Hoot Hoot are just not going to do anything until one of your Pokemon gets knocked out, potentially. So perhaps limiting the options that way, but was forced into this situation by what Christian is doing so far.
Looks like Charmeleon was found off of the Quick Search. Of course, once Charizard comes into play, that could satisfy the Terra requirement for all these Terra-related cards on Luke's side of the field. He does have that Area 0 Underdepths in hand, so he could put it in play and just attack, but he's going to pump the brakes. He's going to hold off here, Puka.
Showing some great patience. Both these players seem to be very experienced in this matchup and know when to take it slow and when to accelerate. And this feels like an inflection point for Christian here. Feels like you can't just sit around and itchy pollen again. Your opponent is starting to set up further with Pidgeot EX. The Charizard EX is coming. Is this the time where you need to start making a move?
Looks like he has finally found himself some In's Zoroark. Missed out on them on the last turn. It looks like In's Darmanitan is in the hand. He just needs one more Darkness Energy in order to use that Night Joker attack to copy the attack of a benched In's Pokemon. He's going to play Serrano here, searching his deck for 3 Pokemon EX. Blood Moon or Saluna hitting the hand along with at least one In's Zoroark. Let's see if the 4th copy is in here. Doesn't look like he's going to grab it. May already be in the hand. Actually hiding in the prizes, so not an option. Just 2 found from the supporter for turn.
Yeah, so if you're Christian here, trying to figure out the best way to approach this, I think the good news is there's no Duskull in play. You're not threatened by a potential Cursed Blast plus, a way to, Cursed Blast to put damage on your Pokemon, which can get it in range for Charizard EX's Burning Darkness. And, you kind of know your opponent's bench is locked at the moment. Maybe a situation where you're kind of baiting the Area 0 Underdepths so that later on you can win that stadium battle with the Team Rockets Watchtower. Both players just content to be patient, and I'm really curious to see, who's going to make the first move to try to, break this stalemate.
Well, Luke certainly could here, as he does have Charmeleon from last turn, and this Quick Search could get him his Charizard EX. Could start attacking here on this turn, should he want to. Another question as well is, it's a little bit of a posturing here, right, from both of these players. I don't think either wants to really be the first one to open up whatever their main attacker is.
Sure seems that way, yeah.
Maybe more so on Luke's side than Christian's. I feel like Christian will probably have to go with the Zoroark at some point to put on some aggression, but Luke is just getting so set up. This Badoo normally aiming to slow the pace of the game, and it feels like Luke has been unaffected up to this point.
Yeah, oh, there we do see the Area 0 Underdepth, so the first stadium card being played.
No, can't put that Terrapagos into play.
Okay, well.
A little bit of a misstep here on the sequencing, but it looks like it's all the same. Of course, in order to expand the bench with Area 0 Underdepths, the Terra Pokemon needs to already be in play. Luke was going to evolve the Charizard anyway, so just a little out of order, but all is the same.
Yeah, I'm hoping we can get this addressed because...
Oh, it actually is very relevant here, right?
You should not be able to attach to this Terrapagos EX. It should not have been able to be in play.
Oh, wow.
So hopefully we get the judges to catch this. It's a pretty big difference in the game right now.
Yeah, he was unable to put Terrapagos onto the bench because his bench was full with no Terra Pokemon. So he could not have accelerated to the Terrapagos. It could not have received any energy from the Infernal Rain. Great catch there, Puka.
Yeah, hopefully we get this sorted out.
I think Luke has just realized what exactly happened here.
Yeah, one of the tricky things, and as you're playing this deck a lot of the time, you just kind of assume you have a Terra Pokemon in play already and are able to use the effect of Area 0 Underdepths.
Yeah, so what may happen here is, I don't know how this is actually going to work out because an energy was put into play effectively that should not have been, that was put onto the Terrapagos.
Yeah, I think trying to argue I can just attach it somewhere else instead of to the Terrapagos.
Yeah, we'll see how the ruling comes down here in this spot. You could see one argument for, well, there was no target and you only put one on the Charizard, so the energy goes back to the deck, but I think, and because he did continue to play cards afterwards, right?
Yep. So I think just taking a moment to reassess the situation, figure out what order cards were played in, making sure we get a good resolution to this situation. Yeah, this happens sometimes, especially with cards with Area 0 Underdepths, which have conditions. Sometimes you forget about them.
We play a complex game.
Absolutely. Okay, looks like that has been resolved now.
Yep.
The energy will just go into the Charizard EX, and I think maybe frustrating for Luke because it was clear he wanted to attack with the Terapagos EX in this situation, and now we'll have to attack with Charizard instead.
Yeah, he's going to have to put that Pokemon in harm's way as opposed to the Terapagos, which he much rather would have had absorb this initial hit. But all the same, he's going to go after Darmanitan, take that Pokemon out. Christian has traded away a Night Stretcher, so perhaps we'll have a harder time getting an Darmanitan attack off this turn. Luke's taken his first prize of the game, been the one to initiate. Now, what will Christian Labella do? He has that Watchtower in hand, Kyle.
That's very true.
Now, we know that Luke's second area 0 under depths is in the prize cards. Christian maybe could have waited to put Rocket's Watchtower into play until later in the game when he would Iono Luke to a low hand size, but I mean, I don't hate this at all, and it turns out it's going to work out really nicely.
I mean, I don't hate it because Luke only has 3 cards in hand.
Yeah,
What are the odds that one of those cards is the second Stadium? Most of these decks don't play very many Stadium cards, so yeah, this Team Rocket's Watchtower was likely to stick in play even if the other Stadium card isn't in the prize card. So this is a massive turning point in this game. There's no access to quick search when the Team Rocket's Watchtower is in play. Can't use Noctowl's Jewel Seeker. And Luke just doesn't have very many cards in hand. This deck is reliant on searching with those colorless Pokemon abilities. And this could just be a situation where Luke has to push forward with just this Charizard and this Terapagos for a bit. It may not have access to a lot of resources.
And here we go. The chain of trades got me feeling like the inaugural NAIC right now. Seeing Zoroark, I guess the second EUIC, I should say. But there is the energy found for Zoroark to attack. The Reshiram as well as an option for the copying of attacks. Interesting as well, Luke does have to be careful when he hits into an Zoroark, as powerful Rage is always a looming threat should a Zoroark eat a hit.
Now what is Luke to do here? Again, hardly any cards in hand, no access to quick search. Maybe was not expecting that Team Rocket's Watchtower. The Stadium card has been a game changer, and now you have to wonder, what is his game plan going to be? As the Jet Energy could potentially attach that to the Terapagos EX and attack, but just decides to attack into the Zoroark.
Wow, that's all he's got. Swing for 180 with the Burning Darkness, and Christian Labella is not too displeased with that. Kicks off his turn now with a trade of the active, discarding Serrano, drawing himself 2 more cards. He's got still another trade to work with, and this is where he is going to start to just build a massive hand. He is going to have nearly any option available to him that he would like in his deck at any given time. Trade number 2 finds himself Boss's Orders. Now that added to his arsenal. He also has the counter catcher in hand already, and he will utilize that to go after the Pidgeot. I mentioned earlier it can be a little difficult to KO Pidgeot once it comes into play, but not if you've eaten a hit from a Burning Darkness. Now the powerful Rage will bounce that damage back 2-fold, and Pidgeot EX will be removed from play.
Yeah, Professor Turo's scenario will take the Badoo out of play as well, which could have been an easy target for a Dusclops in the future. Also frees up another bench spot for a more relevant Pokemon to come down at this stage. And it does seem like Christian Labella has taken full control of this game now. What a swing in just a matter of a few turns.
Yeah, and I think it is wise there for Christian to KO the Pidgeot. Of course, we know that the Stadium Bump is not available for Luke, but that is probably the only way Christian could lose from this position, or at least be unfavored moving forward in this game, would be if Luke were to find the Rocket's Watchtower answer, be able to earn his abilities back, be able to quick search for whatever piece he wants, deal with the Pidgeot right now. That's what Christian Labella has chosen to do. So no matter what, Luke won't have access to quick search in future turns.
And now, the one thing to keep in mind is that the Zoroark deck is not known for doing massive amounts of damage. It's not great at getting one-hit knockouts on things, so it's still going to be some back and forth as we go to the later stages of this game. But you can see the drastic resource advantage that Christian has. Every turn gets to use those trade abilities, discard a card to draw 2 additional cards. And when you have multiple in play, you can use all of them. He's going to be able to shape his hand and find the cards he needs and really just control how the rest of this game will play out. As long as he has the resources to put together good plays, he'll be able to close this out.
And he's found himself counter catcher here, and there are a couple of options with this for him to take 2 prize cards this turn. Counter catcher could KO the Charizard EX using Zoroark to copy the Virtuous Flame and deal with that Pokemon, or he could go after 2 low HP Pokemon with Darmanitan's attack being copied by Night Joker. As long as he gets another Pokemon established here with an energy on it, it feels like Christian could just take 2 prizes this turn and more than likely 2 prizes on the next.
Yeah, and you could go after, for example, 2 Charmander, knock them both out, And then there's just the Charizard would then be able to knock you out with Burning Darkness,
Yes.
but it's already got so much damage on it that one more attack from an end Zoroark EX would end the game. So just a clever maneuvering from Christian is going to set this up with the ends PP up. And
And with another energy attached from hand, he will have 2 attackers ready to go. So should Luke respond with the Charizard EX, Christian's got game on board.
Sure seems like it.
Should he at least have the gust this turn? And look at that at the front of his hand. Giovanni's made an appearance. Boss's orders being eyed up. And he's actually going to go after the Charizard. This does work as well. It does open up the potential for Luke to evolve all of his Pokemon. I do have to say that seems unlikely.
Yeah.
Looks like a Night Stretcher will bring down the Darumaka here as well.
Yeah, the other plan you could go for is to use the Flame Body Cannon, hit for 90, and knock out one of those small basics on the bench and try to get for like a 1 prize turn this turn and then a 3 prize turn on the following turn. Just a matter of what you think is higher risk. Going for the 1 prize means that Charizard EX will only do 270 with Burning Darkness, so your end Zoroark would be safe from a knockout.
Looks like he is going to go that route here, Puka. Nice little call out as he does discard just 1 energy effectively for the Flame Body Cannon. He discards them all, but then 1 comes back immediately with the Power Glass attached to the active and puts that Charizard down to just 70 HP remaining. And the biggest part of this play, as you mentioned, Zoroark now withstands a hit from anything Luke could do with that Duskull going down. Really, really masterfully played, I'd say here from Christian Labella in this matchup.
Yeah, and this is the kind of play you need to win with this end Zoroark EX deck. It's not as straightforward as a lot of the other decks in the standard format. You have to do this kind of clever maneuvering. You don't have the raw power to keep up. And yeah, that's going to wrap up the first game. Christian Labella puts on a masterclass.
Wow, great showing there from Christian, putting himself in just a super strong position. It always feels so good in the Pokemon TCG when you establish your board in a way that your opponent is left with no option but to concede going into the last turn.
Yeah, I think Luke kind of replaying the game in his head, trying to figure out what happened there.
Yeah.
What could I have done differently? Now you have the knowledge of the Team Rocket's Watchtower as well. Thinking about that's a thing I have to play around in the future. But yeah, just what's more things you have to consider as you approach the matchup.
Let's recap that game number 1. It was a bit of a slow start for both of these players, as they were both aiming to just establish themselves, get a little set up. Christian slowed the pace of the game with a Badoo. Luke was never really able to put on too much aggression in those early turns, was content to just get Pidgeot up into play, but ultimately the Rocket's Watchtower find for Christian in the middle of the game is what totally took this off the rails and swung it in his favor.
Yeah, just meant he could take his time picking apart his opponent's board, knowing that there was no access to Quick Search, knowing that the resources were limited, and it was very unlikely for any explosive plays to happen at that point. Just, use those trade abilities, shaped the rest of his hand and his deck to ensure a victory as the game went on.
7 cards for each player to kick off game number 2. Looking for basic Pokemon to get this underway. Worth noting here, Luke has chosen to go first. Pretty common choice in these Noctowl engine decks, relying so much on Fan Rotom and powerful explosive turn 2s. We'll see if he can find himself that 70 HP Pokemon to get things rolling on his opening turn. And already here for Luke, perhaps a better starter in that Terapagos now will unlock the potential of easy turn 2 unified beatdown attacks. No worries about having a stadium card in play to utilize that. And he also has Buddy Poffin, searching his deck for 2 Pokemon with 70 HP or less. Have to imagine Fan Rotom will hit the board this turn in some way.
Sure seems like he's eyeing that up. Take a look at the prize cards here. Nothing too impactful. You see a Charizard, a Briar. That's not very helpful till later in a game, potentially. So overall, pretty tame for the Charizard player here. Yeah, this is an excellent start. I think there were 2 things that got revealed to Luke in that first game that are going to make him maybe approach this second game differently. Of course, we talked about the Team Rocket's Watchtower, but also the presence of Badoo and Itchy Pollen may change how you play out your first turn, maybe play out extra item cards that you wouldn't have otherwise, or even change your game plan to be a bit slower versus other matchups where you're trying to turbo out turn 2 rare candy, get a bunch of stage 2s in play.
We do see a turn 1 stadium here from Christian, but it's the Inn's Castle will give free retreat to all of his ends Pokemon. And just a Lily's determination here. He's going to need something else off of this. 8 cards to come. You got to think he'll find something. I have to imagine a Badoo would be nice to try to slow down this aggressive start from Luke Gantner, but things are looking really strong on the left side of the board. Terrapagos with an energy on it. Fan Rotom able to establish 2 different colorless Pokemon in the Pidgey and Hoot Hoot. Also, the other 2 basics in Luke's deck already found on the opening turn, Charmander and Duskull. Here we go, 8 cards for Christian. Let's see if he can find himself an out to Badoo to keep the pace of the game steady. And he does technically have one here with Ultra Ball, but did not find himself a Buddy Poffin.
Yeah, not ideal by any means. And you do kind of feel like you need to use Itchy Pollen in this situation. Otherwise, your opponent can very easily just get Noctowl, Jewel Seeker for Rare Candy and a Dawn or something like that. Get a Pidgeot EX, Rare Candy into Charizard EX, get Dusclops. All sorts of things can go wrong if you give your opponent access to item cards. So you have to prioritize that Itchy Pollen here.
Looking at the prize cards for Christian, that secret box in there, definitely a bummer, but I would honestly say it's less impactful in this deck than so many others. This deck is not reliant on secret box to get set up. It's not playing into finding it early with Arven necessarily. Now, I don't think any player's upset to find it early and get themselves fully established, but yeah, a little bit of something to note here, seeing that in the prize cards. Other than that, Night Stretcher, nothing else too big.
Yep, so even without the Buddy Poffin, pretty reasonable start for Christian. Gets a couple of those ends, Zorua down the ends, Darumaka, and the crucial Itchy Pollen from this Badoo, disabling item cards for the opponent and really limiting what options. There's no what options the player has. Cannot play Rare Candy. Make sure that there are no Stage 2 Pokemon coming into play this turn.
We're seeing something now for Luke that we did not get to see on the second turn of the last game. Jewel Seeker searching his deck for any 2 trainer cards, adding them to the hand. Looks like Dawn brought to the front right away. A very powerful option to get Pokemon in play when you've been hit with an Itchy Pollen. Item lock, of course, slowing the pace a bit here. I think the big question for me, Puka, is going to be, does Luke have an energy to KO this Badoo this turn?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I know there's still Noctowl, Jewel Seeker you can search for, things like Dawn and things like that, but really the power of Noctowl is being able to search out big combos you can use, finding lots of different item cards you can play and kind of explode all in the same turn. So even though there's still access to the Jewel Seeker, that one Itchy Pollen attack has really limited what Luke is able to do on this turn. Make him go for a much slower pace than perhaps he would have wanted otherwise.
And we are going to see the Dusclops found as one of the targets off the Dawn. Charmander hitting the hand as well here, potentially just a Stage 2 Pokemon now to find. It will be the Charizard EX. Now, if Luke doesn't have an energy in hand to KO this Badoo, he could technically KO it with the Dusclops. Would that be worth it?
Yeah, I mean, this can be a devastating turn as well, right? You can knock out the Badoo and then force a new Pokemon to come into the active spot, and then you can knock out that with Terrapagos EX's Unified Beatdown as well and put Christian in a very awkward situation. He really wants to keep all those basics in play so he can evolve into the various Stage 1s on the following turn. So,
does he have an energy there in that hand, Puka?
I don't see it, but is there one in the prize cards he can maybe get?
There actually is one in the prize cards. He's got a 1 in 6 chance to take it. It doesn't look like he grabbed it here. I think the Super Rod being found. Just a little bit of a pause here, looks like at the table. Discussion from the judges maybe. I think everything should be all in order.
Yep.
Both players should earn a prize card here as Cursed Blast does KO the Dusclops, so Christian gets a prize, and Luke is KOing a Pokemon, so he gets a prize. And now Christian, I mean, he doesn't know Luke doesn't have an energy card in hand. What does he want to send up? It looks like the Zorua will be the choice.
Yeah, that seems like the pretty easy choice here. You want to have the option for the Darmanitan, and Christian's probably going to breathe in a sigh of relief. His Zorua made it through the turn.
Yeah, that is massive. But now he's got himself that Zorua in the active spot. He may have a hard time attacking this turn, to be honest. He's already lost his pivot option from a stadium in that Inn's Castle hitting the discard pile, and he also prized the air balloon that he plays in his deck as a one-of. So he needs some combination of Inn's PP up and an energy to retreat his active, maybe, in order to pull off the attack here.
Yeah, very true. Other option would just be to try to find a Night Stretcher for a Badoo. Then you can just attach and retreat an Itchy Pollen once more. Seems like not a lot of great options in the hand currently for Christian Labella. Trying to figure out the best route, trying to figure out what is a good option to try to pull off some sort of attack here.
He's going to go with the Serrano, searching his deck for 3 Pokemon EX, adding them to the hand, just continuing to set up a little bit. And, oh, yes, does play the Petron. That can be a way for him to get Zoroark in the active spot. Does still need a Darkness Energy here, however. But he's got that Inn's Darmanitan on the bench. Should he find himself a Darkness Energy, he can target down any of those Pokemon on Luke's bench. And if they've got 90 HP or less, he'll be able to take it down.
I think there may be a counter catcher in hand as well.
Ooh, and that would mean he could take 2 prizes on this turn and perhaps deny Luke access to the Pidgeot EX.
It's like a darkness energy was found.
Does he have Power Glass? That would probably be the best possible thing for him to now see in order to regenerate some energy into play. He also could clear both Charmander out of play. That is also an option. Really, the only realistic strong threat from Luke on the next turn would be the attack of a Charizard EX. You can deal pretty reasonably with Terapagos moving forward. It's never going to be able to one-hit KO an Zoroark, and should it hit into one, Powerful Rage is just waiting to bounce back.
Yeah, so a bit of an awkward turn, but still it could be a big swing in this game. Looks like now just going to attack into this Terapagos and knock out the Pidgey, taking away the option for Quick Search as this game goes on. We've seen players identify this as perhaps a weakness of these Charizard decks. If you can cut off the Quick Search late game, they might stumble.
Yeah, another way to effectively get Team Rocket's Watchtower is to just KO all the colorless Pokemon that have abilities right now. Luke will still have the option to evolve his Hoot Hoot should he find himself an Noctowl here. So that will still be a nice way to get himself something rolling, and something rolling is what he is going to need here. Looks like Buddy Poffin will find himself the replacement Pidgey. I have to imagine he'd like to get a Rare Candy and a Charizard up and running, at least so those Pokemon get into play before a potential disruption comes through from Christian moving forward. He also could be looking to chase prize cards here if he can find a Gust option. Get enough Pokemon in play, he could chase after Petron TX or Pheasantipity, those having less HP than the active in Zoroark.
Well, let's not forget, can use items again. So there comes the Rare Candy, Charizard EX, and now some big attackers are set up for Luke. But yeah, what is going to be the plan of action here? There's a lot of awkwardness with this Zoroark EX. It is pretty beefy, 280 HP. As we noted in the previous game, that powerful Rage attack on the End's Reshiram that can be used to present some awkward situations. So it's just...
The Christian taking a moment here just to appreciate the new artwork, I think. I'm sure he knows good and well. He's sharing it with the judges. Dude, look at that thing.
Very impressive.
Very nice. The new secret illustration rare print of Pheasantipity EX from Ascended Heroes. Of course, even though the set not legal for play, cards have been officially released, so players are able to play some of those reprinted cards in their decks this weekend. Luke taking full advantage.
Yeah, I think you're seeing the fan Rotom used in a couple of decks as well. Yep. Yeah, lots of fun new illustration rare and special illustration rare cards in these expansions. But all right, yeah, do you see the boss's orders now going after a Pokemon on the bench? And, enough prize cards have been taken for Charizard, but also just the Terapagos EX. There are enough Pokemon on the bench for Unified Beatdown, and that's a huge 2-prize knockout for this Charizard deck.
Ooh, interesting call here. Looks like Christian almost promoted that ends Darmanitan. Could, of course, attack with it itself using Reversal Energy, which he has a couple copies of, and those cards are live, but choosing to hold off here and just get the promotion of the Ends Zoroark at the moment. And then we'll use Ends PP up, attach an energy, the Zoroark on the bench ready to go.
You have to wonder what the plan is here for Christian as we get into the later stages of this game. Once you take one more prize card, the Charizard EX can hit for 270 damage. And if you have to use Pecharunt to promote your Zoroark EX into the active spot, you will have to poison it, which will effectively leave it with 270 HP. So now it might be a little bit tricky. Trying to set up for multiple knockouts here, if possible. But now there's another thing to potentially play around.
Debating what to discard with this next trade. It looks like it will be the Lily's Determination. And he finds himself an Artisan. Now, this deck does not play anything like the Yveltal in order to kind of provide that free retreat pivot that we've seen from the Mega Absol deck, so not really any great targets off of this. Actually, I guess one thing Christian could do to ensure his Zoroark isn't poisoned is if he has, I think he has a Zorua and an Ends PP up. If there's another Darkness Energy in his discard pile, he could actually get the pivot in that way. I don't know if he has another Dark discarded at the moment, though.
Yeah, that is an option here. Things all kind of more awkward than they need to be without the Ends Castle and without the access to that air balloon. So lots of considerations to pivoting Pokemon around, making sure you have enough energy in play. Always felt like Christian has been kind of one energy attachment off in this game. But here comes the Ends Zoroark EX once again.
You can tell he doesn't feel great about it.
Yeah, what's the play going to be? You can potentially set up for a 2-turn win here if you hit this Terapagos EX for 90 and then knock out maybe the Hoot Hoot on the bench. You You would then go down to 3 prize cards, and then on the following turn, you could try to once again Flame Body Cannon. You'd have to bring the Terrapagos EX to the active spot because it is a Terra Pokemon. So you could knock that out plus another Pokemon on the bench and get a 3 prize card turn. So maybe that's the plan of action at this point. Try to get 1 this turn and close it out with 3 prize cards on the following turn.
Yeah, I actually wonder if, I guess if the Dust Skull stays in play, there's always going to be a 90 HP in play from the target. I guess unless Rare Candy was to happen, right? It is in theory possible for Luke to get all Pokemon with 90 HP or less out of play. And Christian is actually going to just go after that Dust Skull right away. Okay.
Yeah, you could actually, I guess you could lose this turn if there was a Rare Candy Dusknote, right? You can knock out one of the small Pokemon, and then Charizard EX would just come in for the final knockout. So yeah, you need to take that out of play just to avoid the Cursed Blast kind of throwing off your prize trade here.
And Christian being very heads up in that decision, and Luke will now use Fezzendipity's Flip the Script to draw 3 cards. Should he find himself a Noctowl, that would unlock many possibilities this turn with Jewel Seeker. Does he have one? I don't see it in hand at the moment. Is that maybe an Ultra Ball? That would be another way here. On this turn for Luke, though, Charizard can take the knockout on the active. It feels like one step is definitely getting this Terrapagos EX out of your active spot, right?
Yeah, I think Luke's in a decent spot right now if he can evolve both of his small Pokemon on the bench and get out of range of that Flame Body Cannon's 90 damage. It's going to maybe create a situation where Christian is unable to win the game on the next turn, and that's got to be what Luke is looking for. It's very easy to get a knockout here. Yeah, you can just retreat into Charizard EX, get the knockout there, but yeah, you want to try to avoid giving your opponent a way to potentially win the game. Looks like a Hoot will come down onto the bench, though, with that Nest Ball. And what's going to be the plan of attack?
Yeah, what options are available here for Luke? Looks like a Jet Energy. Going to use that to preserve the energy cards on the active Terrapagos, so perhaps that could be an attacker to close things out here. Should this Charizard go down, maybe to a powerful Rage. And Christian just showing, yeah, he's got the play.
Yeah, that's it.
Counter Catcher plus energy is enough for him to close out the game. It would bring back the energy card. Counter Catcher brings the Terrapagos into the act. Well, they were tied on prizes, weren't they? 3 and 3 apiece.
Well, when he takes the knockout,